2, that was. Welcome back to E20 Zone TV. New intro, new logo, and the same old crew back in the house. To my right is Lucas. Down the bottom is Clive. He's been away, but he's back forever and ever and ever. Amen to that. Lucas, how are you doing? We're talking about Declan Rice. What are you saying?
I'm fine. Today should be solid. Going to a engagement party. I wouldn't say I'm going with the happiest intentions because I'm so sick of the Rice saga. It's kind of dampening my mood, but
yeah,
we move. I guess we move.
Yeah, I hear you, mate. I really do. Clive, what about yourself? How are you and Declan Rice?
Yeah, I'm all good. I mean, Declan Rice looks like he's all right in Portugal, and he's having the time of his life. But at the rate we're going at, he's not going to make it to. Well, he's not made it to the Australian tour for West Ham, and he's not going to make it to the US tour for Arsenal at this rate. So, yeah, I'm sure he's had better summers.
Yeah, I know, mate. I know. Well, let's get into it. Arsenal basically had a deadline to meet today, and currently at 6 minutes past 8 tonight, nothing has happened. Nothing has changed, and they still haven't sent over the documentation for West Ham to sign. So, gentlemen, the question is, what the fuck is going on?
Mate, it's annoying. I think we can all agree on that. I really have no clue. X hasn't really said anything, which I'm not sure what to make of it. Because obviously he's not in the dark, but like normally X has come out before and has said that he's withheld information and not like melt the fan base down to have a meltdown. I don't know why I said it like that. The words could not formulate in my head, but I don't know. It is a bit weird. Like, I don't know. It's annoying. It's absolutely annoying because as we've seen, it seems that we can't really start our business until that first payment hits. And
yeah,
it's just annoying.
What are you saying, Clive, on it? What's going on?
I genuinely think there's one of two things. I don't necessarily think they can't afford us. I think the lawyers have noticed that they will go over the FFP.
Yeah.
And I think that's the truth behind it. I think that's why everyone's so stum. Obviously, with it being in lawyers' hands, I think, like what Lucas has said, X has been very, very stum on this situation. I think in part it's probably because there would be implications if things were said. I genuinely think it's to do with FFP. There's no way that Arsenal couldn't afford it. They've managed to get other deals through the door. It's the fact that this is such an expensive deal. Bear in mind, they've already made the Havertz deal for 65 million. And they've made other deals of less money. But Havertz is the most noteworthy one of a large sum of money in one go. All terms have been agreed. Everything's been agreed. So to me, it just says FFP is the issue, and the lawyers are probably looking at what the implications are if they were to go over FFP and how much they could be going over by.
It is a bit of a joke because, like, honestly, it's been how long has it been now since it's been agreed?
10 days.
10 days, mate.
And
the whole time I was in Burnley, right, I thought it was going to get done. It still hasn't got done. I'm back from Burnley.
It's just ridiculous. And like there will obviously be banter back and forth between both clubs on Twitter. But I mean, really, like Arsenal just look awful in this situation. Like they're acting like a poverty club. They really are. And I don't understand.
The thing is, though, well, the question is, how long do you leave it before you do pull the plug on this? Because it's getting to a stage now where West Ham are. Well, Arsenal are holding West Ham to ransom to a point because we're waiting for him to go through so we can start signing players. And
I think it's too late, personally. Like if we wanted to,
I don't think it is.
Really?
I don't think it is too late. No, I think if this deal is not done by the time our 2 fixtures in Australia are done and we fly back home, I think if we are not in the position where it's already done and they've come back, I think it puts our whole preseason in turmoil. So effectively, I think we do pull the plug.
I think I don't disagree, but I feel like 10 days is a bit over the mark. Like if West Ham wanted to make a statement, I would have thought that like if they haven't paid within a week, like we just not pull the plug, but like something like that, just to like make them shit themselves a little bit. But like
the difficulty is if we pull the plug, you're probably going to upset Rice at the same time. That's the downside. I think that's the only reason we haven't pulled the plug, to be honest. I think it's not to piss off Rice too much.
Yeah, but the only question with that is, Clive, is whatever happens, we're going to upset Rice, don't we, to a point? Because we have got to think of West Ham in this situation. If Rice is going to be unhappy either way. If he's here and it doesn't get done, or if it delays even longer. But the problem is we have got to think of West Ham in this one, and I think the time is really pushing.
I don't necessarily think we upset Rice either way, because it's in Arsenal's hands. I think in this situation, say we did pull the plug in say 4 days' time, I think it would be very well explained to Rice. It's been in the hands of Arsenal for 2 weeks. They failed to do the deal. It's now scuppering our pre-season. And ultimately, it could be a worst case scenario for Rice where we didn't have European football. At least if he is stuck with us, we have European football, albeit not the Champions League, but we do have Europa League. A few seasons ago, if we were holding a player like that and say we were to pull the plug, we wouldn't have had European football to rely on.
This feels like the opposite situation of Harry Kane. We got the deal done, but it just won't go through.
Yeah,
like for some reason, and I think Rice is the perfect player that would he probably very passive aggressive if we did pull the plug? Yeah, but I still feel like he'd be decent to have around. I don't think he'd stir anything up, but he'd obviously be unhappy. And again, some players
he can't be a dick
some players. Some players are better at holding their feelings in than others, and I feel like Rice, if he's wanted to go for about a year now, is another year really going to push him to the brink?
Yeah, but have Arsenal took it to a situation where they literally can't afford this geezer? That's the problem.
I don't think so. In terms of FFP, yes, I maybe, but I don't know.
That's what I mean, though, Lucas.
Situation.
Yeah, but Lucas, that's what
I genuinely think they've gone over FFP, and remember, FFP's over a 3-year period as well.
And this is the thing: are we talking Premier League FFP or European FFP?
Both.
Yeah,
both.
So
because Arsenal's FFP based on UEFA is very poor, because obviously they've not really had Champions League football. So by their standards, they've not had a lot, and obviously even from a Premier League,
you would think they've had it the past 5 years the way they fucking act.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to be real, right? I think Arsenal have overshot their bolt really big time on this one. And what it is, where West Ham wants 75 million in the first payment, that is going to affect your FFP, isn't it? Let's be real. That's why they wanted that over a 6-year deal or 5-year.
Yeah, they didn't. And to be fair, and this is not even being biased or anything, even though I do hate Arsenal, they just did not have their ducks lined up in a row properly. If Rice was really their top target, they would have gotten the Rice deal sorted first before going after Havertz, Timber, because they've got both of them announced. Timber relatively, I wouldn't say, compared to us, not cheap, but for them, relatively cheapish.
But it's the installments, though, Lucas.
Yeah,
that's where it is. If the first installment's 5 million or 10 million, it's not a lot of dough. The first installment Arsenal have got to give us is 75 million.
So in total, Arsenal have already spent 99 million. Timber was 34, Havertz 65, and in terms of transfers out, obviously Xhaka's left for just under 22 mil, and they had one other signing that was of a major amount of money of 6 million, which isn't a lot. So they've not made a lot. They're minus around 60 odd mil. If you look at their previous year's spend, it's not.
Where is Kieran Maguire when we need him?
Yeah.
I actually love listening to him. He's a bit of a nutcase, but I like listening to him when he talks numbers, because he seems to be the only guy in the Twitterverse or just football that has everyone's books almost to a T. I love a numbers guy, but I saw someone in the comments mention this, and before Clive, you go on to your thing. I do think if we do pull the plug, no way Rice can be upset. There's no way, because there would have to be a level of understanding. Maybe
if anything, he's going to be upset with Arsenal.
We got you what you want. The situation's out of our hands, and now we're taking it back because we have to. They're mugging us off.
I think
If
he's
you
got to realise that it's
actually
about West Ham and all. You know what I mean? Go on, Clive.
if you actually look at the expenditure, the 2 seasons prior, 155 million, and I'm trying to do the maths for the previous one to that. But I mean, Ben White was 50 million alone. Odegaard was 30. Aaron Ramsdale 24. So you're looking at about 130 mil the season before, and they've already spent almost the exact same as they've done in the last two summer windows or overall seasons.
Yeah.
So if you look at their FFP, I think they're cooked anything past 40, 50 million.
Question: are we upset with Rice's conduct at all in the last 2 weeks? Like,
No.
why is he taking?
No.
Why is it taking so long? I agree, right? I'm not upset with him, right? I just think Arsenal have got themselves in a situation now where they've been found out to a point.
Rice is rightfully taking his 2-week holiday because he was on international break. Blah blah blah.
And he's training.
Yeah, and
He's training.
And to be fair, he's training with absolutely world class players. But
yeah,
and I said, and again, I seen this in the comments. I seen it from Razor here, but I even said this when the whole saga was going on. Right? Yes, did Arsenal offer us more money than City? Yeah, but to me personally, just because it's more money doesn't mean like the hassle is going to be easier or less. Like I would have taken City's 95 because they would have paid us up front.
Yeah.
Like that. Not all of it, obviously, but they would have given us 50, 45, 50 straight up.
The
rest
irony is,
in another year.
I'm very interested to figure out if Arsenal are also slowing the progress down. Is there an imminent announcement for Manchester City with their going over the regulations for their FFP? Is there going to be an imminent announcement? And if that's the case, does that mean whatever their punishment is what Arsenal are trying to figure out, that they could be in a similar boat?
And then again, as we all know, FFP just loves to rear its ugly head on smaller clubs and others. But
I can't make sense of it, in regards of like they've signed Havertz, they've signed Timber, but they are stalling on this one. They are stalling big time. And if this is your number one target, the other two should come second. And should have been first.
And as much as other people, like especially like people on Twitter, and again, Twitter, not a real place. People on there are not real, in my opinion. But like they're saying like, oh, like we're stalling to take the piss or yada yada yada. Like there's no way in a world like this, a business world where all this money is involved, there's no way they're taking this long to take the piss or like negate us from doing our business, because that just looks, it's not good overall. Like it slows everyone's business down.
I've got to get to his comment here, I've got to get to his comment. I'll let you come in, Clive. We'll pay when we want. You messed us around. Now it's your turn. Otherwise we're sending the bailiffs round, mate. We're sending the bailiffs round. Do you know what I mean? They're coming for you. Can't pay. We're taking Rice away.
Again, and this goes back to Twitter not being a real place, because that is a Twitter-esque comment. And they're saying you messed around.
Yeah.
Okay, you took the piss, and what, 65 mil was the first offer? Like, fuck off. Like, I'm not even upset at that comment. Just people are so not real.
Ibby, who I do rate, I do respect Ibby. We do clash, but I do rate him. That shows that they're having second thoughts about the 105 million. They can guarantee they're trying to change the deal. In my opinion, we should pull the plug and make an example. Because what it is, how long does it go on for before you go?
Well, like I say, I think
do you do?
As soon as we come back from Australia, I think if the team come back and there's no it's done or not done, then you pull the plug at that point. I mean, at that point, I think it's just over 2 weeks. So I think it needs to be done. But I think looking at, obviously,
it's got to be done. Jorginho's awful. It's got to be done.
But like looking at Arsenal's transfer, I mean, I understand what you're saying about Timber obviously going through, but I think take him out of the perspective. I actually think it's the Kai Havertz thing, because obviously that signing was done prior to July. I mean, that was 2.5 weeks ago, and I think if they took that out of the window, I think the reason they're prioritizing all the other signings is multiple players for around the same amount of money as paying for Rice, which is just one player.
There's a lot of different angles to look at, and it is interesting because, like, again, I'm not Kieran. Is it Kieran or Kiernan? I think it's Kieran. I'm no Kieran Maguire. I don't know what Arsenal's books are looking like. I don't know what our books look like. But at the end of the day, we're kind of in the dark. Our most reliable source really hasn't said anything.
And that ain't good, though.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that he should be giving us that information because he already gives us a lot of information. But, like, it's hard not to make any assumptions or thoughts because it is interesting. Because I agree with basically what all of you in the comments have said. Like, FFP is a very, very strange thing. It almost seems mythical at times, and it only likes to pop up when it feels like it or someone takes the opportunity to progress themselves as a club. But yeah, I don't know. I do think I agree with you and Clive. I think Arsenal may have jumped the gun on their books a little bit, and maybe that is why there is a hold up. But that again, that's not our issue, and we don't need the money ASAP. Like,
well, we do, Lucas, because we need to sign some players.
It's not even that. We actually need the money because I think we're going to fall foul of FFP as well, from my understanding of the books. So it's different. Yeah, I think it is a difficult one. I think our FFP is a little bit not great, but that's in part also that we had a really bad season last season in terms of the league. That doesn't help. It probably would have been cut a little bit different. But I think the irony is, say we keep Rice for one more season, that doesn't actually scare me too much because if you look at Spurs, which I don't like to do, but in this situation, if you look at Spurs, Harry Kane, you're looking at Bayern Munich, who have gone for him for the last 2 weeks, let's say. Spurs so far have obviously stayed firm on their point that they're not going to sell him. However, now all of a sudden, another team in Europe wants Kane. I believe it was PSG. So they're now coming forward and they're saying they're going to give even more money. In a weird way, we could end up in a situation next summer where we end up with an Arsenal versus Manchester City, a little bit less money, but ultimately you could still get 75,
I
80 million.
literally have been saying this. Like,
I would laugh, mate.
Like, again, is £100 million nice? Of course it is. But the prospect of Rice staying one more year, we push on and compete in Europa League, maybe do something again. Obviously, I'm not saying we'd win the lot, but the prospect of us competing again, like seriously, and then just bunking off Rice for let's call it 60. Let's call it 60 million pound with 1 year left. I would take that.
Say we lose. Say we sell him for 60. So that ultimately, £45 million loss. Let's say, right. Each place in the Premier League, you're looking at about 6 to 8 million. Say we end up with 6 places better because Rice stayed in the team for one more season and we actually have a better season. You're looking at about 30 million there. And say we get to at least the quarterfinals of the Europa League, you've basically banked your money back, providing that in the group stages.
Another thing I just thought about was another reason why Arsenal might be down bad right now is they gave Kai Havertz like almost 300 grand a week, didn't they?
Well, that's daylight robbery. I'm going to say that. I've got to get to this question, right? Right. A follow-up question. Has a new rivalry been created with this saga? 100%.
I personally... and again, I do think it might be a bit with some of the younger fans. Well, but then again, real quick.
Yeah.
I feel like it might be a thing with some of the younger fans, but I consider myself sort of a young fan as well because I've only been watching West Ham now, almost coming up on 9 years. But me and Clive are about the same age. I think, well, we are. I've always considered Arsenal a rival. If you play in London, you are a rival to me. I don't know how Clive feels about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Chelsea has obviously been a little bit more of a rivalry than Arsenal in some aspects. But
there's more hatred there for sure.
Yeah, but I think the whole aspect is obviously in part the Frank Lampard situation, but that one was a little bit more. Yeah, that as well. But the Joe Cole one was
not as bad, but
yeah, and
Lampard
that was only 4 or 5 years after Lampard. But the Lampard situation was quite a big ordeal at the time, and obviously at that aspect, it's it created something out of it. But I think with the Declan Rice situation, yes, it's created a rivalry.
It's amplified it, I would say.
Yes,
it's amplified it, but
amplified it. But I don't think it's the same level because at the same time, we don't hate Rice.
I don't know.
We hated Lampard.
Yeah, well, I will say this. Yeah, I see something on Twitter earlier on today about someone that printed up a load of stickers with like Arteta and all that, and so like where you sold your star to Mikel Arteta and all that crap, right? And Arsenal are brewing it up. They are brewing it up, yeah. And with us, is we don't care as West Ham. Like, as one thing with West Ham, we will go anywhere and out chant anyone. And the thing is, I just feel it is starting to make a rivalry out of something so small. Like if this drags on for another week, a lot of West Ham fans are going to be pissed off. They already are pissed off now with the situation, like because we're not seeing no one come through the door, and it feels like to me that we need to sell Rice to get money in to go out and start buying players, which I'm going to be honest is fucking bad from the ownership.
I don't necessarily agree though. Not with the bad on the ownership part. I actually think the reason we're holding off the purchases isn't because of the Rice money. Because let's say, for instance, like I've seen different speculation that we're only going to get a third of the money this year, and a third next year, and a third the year after. So, you know, let's say we are only going to get a third. That's only about 35, 40 mil now. So, you know, that it's not.
I'll answer that question in a second.
It's not a lot. That effectively is the same purchase as one player. I think the thing is, we in our heads have this aspect of we want to sign 4 or 5 players clearly with who we're linked with, I think. And it's very clear in that aspect. They're like, right, okay, we want to spend on all these players. This is the expenditure. However, we would be X amount over. And that's based on the initial not the initial asking price, the initial bids that we put in. The problem is you put in a bid, it's never going to get accepted the first time round unless you've already gone over the odds. So ultimately, West Ham won't know how high they can go with these bids unless they've got the money from Rice, because they know they've got the money to fall back on FFP. But we don't unless we sell Rice. And I don't think that's actually an ownership fault. It's a case of we don't know how high we can go for players like James Ward-Prowse or players like
because we've never spent that kind of money before, so it is a bit of uncharted
territory.
It's
dangerous.
Yeah,
I think, I think it's quite dangerous myself.
Yeah, like we could be going for James Ward-Prowse for 25 million and go all the way up to 35 million because of the Rice deal. But ultimately, we could be going, okay, we've not sold Rice, so we don't need JWP. But let's say we still go for him because we sell Souček or something, which, God forbid that happens, I will cry. But in that situation, we'd go, okay, well, the maximum we can do is only 30 million because FFP. Like, we're not going to give you any more. So I think that's the problem. We just don't know how high we can go.
I'm going to get to this question. I'll let you answer the next one. And obviously, Thunder enjoys in the chat. I want to hear what he's got to say also. Oh, yeah, James, have you counted all your coppers? And did they all come to that monkey? Don't you worry, Dane, or D3 AM. Alfie will get paid. But if it is Dean, just say fucking Dean, not D3. Do you know what I mean?
Real quick, I want to get to just two of these. So I wanted to answer this one from Epic Hash Time. Hope you're well. Lucas, clubs such as Fulham, Palace, Brentford, not rivals. I disagree personally. But like I said, if we're comparing, like, do I look at Fulham, Palace, and Brentford like Chelsea, Arsenal,
Palace is a
Tottenham?
rival.
I consider Palace like right there with them. But like, again, like, do I hate Fulham and Brentford? No, I don't hate them, but I think they're a rival.
They're family-run clubs.
But at the end of the day, it's a rival. They're in London. If we consider Chelsea a rival and they're in West London, Fulham are in West London, Brentford are in West London, that's a rival to me. But do I hate Fulham and Brentford? No, but you still go into that match. It's a London derby. Let's have it. Let's have it long.
London derbies are a big thing, but I also wonder: are we trying to amplify rivalries? Because ultimately, we've not faced Millwall now for 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. If not, maybe a little bit longer. So we're lacking on the front of having that really big rivalry, with the exception of perhaps Spurs, which, again, I don't see that as the same level as Millwall, you know?
Yeah, and then this last one.
Millwall's more, just to say this, Millwall's more of a historic rivalry.
Yeah.
Like that's one where you can say, you know what, that's over like decades and decades and decades of time. Do you know what I'm saying? I
Yeah, but we've
think.
not faced them for years, is what I'm saying. Like, I think
Well,
because of
thank God
that,
for that club. Everything will be smashed up, but you know what I'm saying. But
true.
what I'm saying is, when you look at rivalry, like people say that they're about Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace fans fucking love giving it to us. I mean, love it. Like love. Like amount of times that, like, especially doing the YouTube. Since I've been doing the YouTube, I've never known Palace fans to be like that. If I wasn't doing the YouTube before, since I've been doing the YouTube, fuck me, they've got a voice enough. Like, they always got something to say. Fulham and Brentford are family-run clubs, a bit like QPR. QPR back in the day, I wouldn't say what they was a rival, but it's just a London rival, London thing. Do you know what I'm saying? It's very light-hearted. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
at the end of the day, I still consider that the same. And to answer Deem, I think that's how you pronounce it. Lucas, if your team is in America, is everyone one rival just because it's such a massive country? So yes and no. I mean, the concept is the same, but it's different. So, like, for example, like American football, we have 30 odd teams, but there's like divisions. There's divisions of 4. And if you play within the same division, it's kind of like playing within London. If you play in the same division, you are a rival, 1,000%. You don't want the other club to do well. You don't want to trade and give away players within your division. And then the second obvious one is like if you play in the same state as another team, you are rivals to an extent.
What's more?
But then you've got player rivalries as well, haven't you? Because players
and then just like Arsenal and West Ham right now, there's certain rivalries that are created and get amplified because, like, for example, if there's any American football fans out there, you guys can close your ears if you don't understand. Like my team, Steelers and the Patriots, they don't play in the same division, but we've played each other so many times and so many controversial things have happened. It is a rivalry, even though we don't play in the same division.
What's more of a rivalry, Lucas? Yeah, is it in the same state, or
division.
Is it sort of, or is it the same division? What's more of the rivalry for you?
Within the division. So consider the division London. If you are in London, you are a rival. I don't want you to do well. I want you to do awful. I don't want you to benefit at all.
Basically, it's like an ego thing. You want to finish top of the London tree, basically. Obviously, we ain't, but you know.
But the problem as well is like I say with Millwall, like we have not faced them in 10 years. We've not faced.
Irish Tommy might be the only person I'll understand. I respect his American ball knowledge.
We've not faced Leyton Orient since the 80s. Like all of the East London clubs, with the exception of West Ham.
But as soon as they come up to the Premier League, I don't want Leyton Orient to do jack. I want them to be shit.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. I feel like we have to amplify other rivalries, especially in London, because all of the other East London clubs, or those that are very close around us, we haven't played them for a number of years, or in the case of Millwall, 10 years.
Oddly enough, this is literally one of my hated rivals. I fucking hate the Cincinnati Bengals. Disgusting fan base, by the way.
But one thing I'm going to say, though, I do think, like you just said, though, Lucas, historic moments happen in certain issues, because you can look at, and there's Trevor here, I've got to get to this comment up here, right? Because Trevor says, the only time us old school chicken run now retired in Cape Town, South Africa, come back to England is only when we play Millwall. Now, if you are used to having Millwall back in the day, in the like 80s and early 90s and things like that, I can understand it. The rivalry now is more coming towards like Spurs. Spurs have been a rivalry for the last 25 years. Yeah, it wasn't a rivalry when I was growing up. It was just always been West Ham Millwall. Do you know what I'm saying? That was always it. But now Spurs have taken over. Chelsea used to be a rival. Also, back in the day, and if Trevor's still here, he can sort of vouch for this. Manchester United used to be a massive rival with West Ham because of the Cockney Reds. Like, because it was just full of Cockney Reds.
But again, the example I just used, like Steelers versus the Patriots, Pittsburgh is so far away from Massachusetts that it doesn't make sense. But
look at Boston Celtics and Los Angeles Lakers, because they were both constantly going for the NBA championship in the 80s. It became such a big rivalry.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, rivalry is up to the opinion of anyone, geographically, facts, historical, again, if you don't find Arsenal a rival, I don't mind, but like, that's just not the way I look at it. And even
they're a rival, but they're not like, as I say, they're not as strong.
Yeah,
as
they're not. They're not a Tottenham.
Yeah.
They're not like
So,
they're
yeah.
not Chelsea.
See that comment there from Thunder and Joy, yeah? He goes, yeah, be surprised that Leighton Orient and Dagenham Redbridge fans that all follow West Ham too. But the problem is, if you live in Dagenham, which I do, I don't mind going and seeing a local team doing well. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's old school football. Do you know what I mean?
Daggers, come on.
My mum was born down the road of Leighton. She loves the O's, but she also loves West Ham.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's basically like, well, it's the area that you're brought up in. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
West Ham will always be your first love, but there's nothing wrong with going and supporting your local sort of team. The only thing I do say on that, and I always do say this, is I would never wear a shirt from them. I'd go over there and watch a game, but I would never wear a shirt. Like the only shirt that touches me is West Ham United Football Club, and that is me.
I think,
like,
yeah,
personally.
I can agree with that. And to end my opinion on that, like, I don't support two clubs, but I mean, and it all depends on situation. Like, is Leighton Orient like ever gonna make it to the Prem? Is Dagenham and Redbridge ever gonna make it to the Prem?
Nah.
So like, if you wear a kit like a Dagenham and Redbridge kit, like I wouldn't look at you funny if you're like, oh, I support West Ham, but I'm wearing that.
Unless Ryan Reynolds goes, I'm not going to own Wrexham anymore, and I'm going to buy freaking Leighton Orient. I don't think we're going to see him in the Premier League anytime soon.
And I totally respect the whole like, this is my local, yada yada yada. Like, I totally get that.
Yeah.
But like, if you wear a Dagenham and Redbridge kit, but say you're diehard West Ham, I wouldn't look at you crazy, because Dagenham and Redbridge is like, it's just a local club. Like, they're always going to be in the National League, hopefully League One, up the Daggers. But yeah.
Look, there's more chance that we would drop all the leagues than Leighton Orient and Daggers coming up, I think. So,
the thing is, it just works with local, isn't it? It's just your local community. Like, whether or not it's Dagenham, Redbridge, Leighton Orient. Well, I've seen people who support Billericay Town. Like, I know people who are South End fans, who are West Ham fans, go home.
I would never wear another.
But I could never wear another shirt.
Kit.
Yeah, I agree on that.
Or 100%. Championship. It would have to be a banging League One, League Two kit for me to wear.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I have this discussion with my mate, yeah? And I've known my mate for nearly 25 years, right, growing up. And he's a West Ham fan, but he goes Dagenham all the time because he lives literally down the road from Dagenham.
Is it the one that we watched the match with?
Yeah. Right.
Good
now,
luck.
for me, he's a really lovely geezer, and he always said to me, "Would you ever wear a kit?" I would like, nah, I'm West Ham, mate. I'm West Ham. Right? I've graced the claret and blue. That's me. Right? I can't go and do that because it just feels morally wrong. I see people wear other kits for other clubs of a higher stature, and I just go, I can't do it, mate. I just can't do it. It's just not like, for me mentally. I'm going, nope, that's fucking
my
wrong.
my boundaries come to leagues, and then it's got to be an absolute naughty.
Yeah. Talking of kits, I've got a slight issue with our kit this year.
Go ahead.
It's not going to be what you think it's going to be. It's not the bubbles. There's a certain thing I'm a little bit worried about. Now I'm going to talk about the last two. No.
Oh.
Hold on. So, 2 seasons ago, a certain team went down. Last season, a team went down.
Oh, yeah.
And now we have the exact same shirt, sleeve, sponsor in JD Sports.
Yeah.
Third time lucky, or are we going down too?
I'm nervous on that, mate. That's a fucking omen, isn't it?
I know. I know. I saw that, and I saw the, what was it? It's Leeds United last season, and the team before was
Southampton last season.
Sorry, Southampton last season. Who was it before that? It was Norwich.
Norwich, yeah.
Yeah. So like, what we're the third team to don JD Sports on the
iconic badge of JD Sport on the sleeve.
I know. Yeah. That's my biggest gripe.
Oh, that'd be great banter if like if we got someone at West Ham who was like a JD Sports athlete and they like missed the badge, but they accidentally kissed the JD sponsorship. That'd be class.
That would be funny. Do you know what? Right?
When Maxwell Cornet pointed to the wrong side.
Unreal, mate. Right, do you know what? I was up in York the other week, last weekend, and I walked into JD, and I see. Don't forget York, obviously Yorkshire and all that. So I've looked in there. It's all for the Manchester United kits, right? It was even Tottenham kits,
which ain't right. That's not right.
Right? There was even Tottenham kits in York, right? And I'm thinking, West Ham are sponsored by JD. Where's the West Ham kit? Not one West Ham kit in JD Sports, mate. Not one.
It ain't right.
And I was like, what's going on here? And
the other thing that ain't right is there's just too many Clarendon Blue clubs. There's too many. Like I feel like 2 is too many. Like,
do you know what? This would be an interesting debate. Would you hate us going back to the traditional Thames Ironworks colorway as a home kit?
I'm not opposed to anything. I'm a fashionable guy.
It's a hard one, isn't it? Because like you think to yourself, it's good because of the heritage for like the first decade of the club's existence. But after that, we've been claret and blue for the past 110, 15 years. So is it like now at this point it's our identity? You just can't change that, or would you consider? Well, actually, you've got Burnley, you've got Villa, all these claret and blue.
I think it's got to be claret and blue for me. Yeah. But one thing I will say, I think the like when you look at our logo, like for example, we've got a new logo. Right, shout out to Tom, done a fucking amazing work on that. I'll give him that kid. Right. I want to see some old sort of style in the West Ham kits now, like rather than it being sort of the same old shit, but just added something else on top of it.
Noble's last season was the last time I can remember. I was like, wow, that is an absolute scorcher. Like,
and even the away kit was nice. The black kit, like the one where we just didn't seem to lose away from home. That was like,
that was, yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And I just feel, I think the Thames Ironworks is shout, but then you've got the London on it now on the badge, which I fucking despise. I really do, because
I hate that too. Still,
well, if you actually think about it, we're coming up to about 7 or 8 years of the badge. Most badges get replaced after about 15 years.
Villa replaced theirs this season. Halfway. Chelsea done theirs this season, I think, as well. A bit.
We're almost halfway with ours. I think our badge will change without having the London aspect on there. But you're looking at another decade or so before that happens. And
Mate, if I'm telling you right now, since we're talking about kits, if we could go back to this naughty number right here,
do you know what
I
like? Yeah, see, I love collared football shirts, but I also miss the old days where you had like the really flary ends of the sleeves.
I've got to admit, I've got to admit, I think it's 96 or 97. Someone correct me in the chat. The cream one, the cream kit, like the one where we played Wrexham away in the fucking snow. That, do you know what I mean? That was
like Dagenham Motors.
No, I can't. No, I think it was Pony. It was like it wasn't. I don't mean that in a Cockney term. I mean it was actually made by fucking Pony.
No, it was. I have that kit. It was Pony Dagenham Motors. I want to say it was 95.
All I remember, and anyone of the old school in here, remember
people
Danny.
Hate that kit. I love that kit.
Who played for West Ham? I always remember Danny in that kit. I think he scored the goal at fucking Wrexham. I'm pretty sure he did. And we got through the FA Cup. It was fucking snowing that day with orange football. But that kit was nice, I must admit. But I must admit, the kit the away kit that we had a couple of years ago, the black one with the gold, I thought was mint. Absolute mint.
Sadly, that one also has Rice on the back for me. This blue one right here is one of my favorites. I thought we'd done a brilliant job with that. But I personally,
I think Umbro were getting a bit stale, but I don't know if that's because I think it's quite clear we're not going back with them. I think the coming seasons are the last ones, and then we're going to have a radical transformation. I'm hoping.
I agree.
For me, all the kits obviously haven't been released, but I think they're all pretty much bang on. I like our kits this season. I'm not surprisingly, I'm always a bigger fan of our third kit. Like I think we've had some banging third kits. That
orange kit, that purple was shit.
The purple when Allaire was playing, absolutely banging that kit.
Yes, and then that Adidas purple, I've got that.
This kit was absolutely banging. Rice Dynamo Zagreb. That kit is banging, and then this one is too like it reminds me of Bournemouth. That like
that's the portfolio,
that teal color reminds me of a Bournemouth kit or something. It's disgusting, but
just to shout out, Joe said Portfolio scored. Hugo, I remember that. Now it wasn't Danny. That was a fucking season before. But carry on. Lads.
I'll never forget that cream kit either, because I know Paulo Futre played in that kit. And the stories on him were always funny. But.
Shout out to Charlie Walsh all the way over at Hammer's chat. Do you know what I mean? Shout out the thumbnail. I must admit, Tom made the thumbnail, but I come up with the title, gentlemen. So I'll just let you know. You know what I mean? Right, let's talk about West Ham over in Australia. I must admit, they look pretty relaxed. Like Moyes looks pretty like chilled.
Ask me what time I got to get up for that kickoff tomorrow. Even if I don't even know if it's being streamed or not.
See, I know it's at 10 a.m. for us, I think. So I
6 a.m. kickoff for me.
Yeah, I was about to say it's like 10 or 11 for us. So yeah, it's minus whatever for you. So I know it's early.
I'll watch along, Lucas.
I'll be. We will be there. We will be
there. Yeah. What do you make of the boys over in Australia? How do you see the lads over there? Like, Bowen looks good. He looks fit. He looks well. Yeah.
For me, the preseason's all about vibes. If you're working hard and the vibes are high, I think that's really all you can ask for. Like I typically don't care about results personally. I just want players playing, if that makes sense. So like, say we'll probably round out with transfers, but let's just say Zakaria comes in like next week. Probably won't happen, but if he comes in next week, I'll be happy that he's going to get like 4 matches under his belt. I don't care really what the score is if we get the result. Like, I just want players playing. I want them building chemistry. I want the vibes high. So, but I think they're having a good time in Australia, and Freddie Potts coming away with a 5-year deal. The vibes are high.
I genuinely think the good thing is, obviously, in their heads, it seems like the Rice saga is done.
Yeah.
The only person who's getting queries on it is obviously David Moyes, because it's just a case of, well, is this getting done today, tomorrow, the next day? When's this getting completed? But, I feel like the team have sort of accepted that this is, we're over it. We're now looking towards the future. And I think that's the main thing, because the worst scenario we could have had is, unless this does fall through, which obviously at this point anything could happen, but the worst thing that could have happened is rumblings throughout the whole summer, and then we decide mid-August that we're going to sell Rice after like the first game of the season. So I think
that's the worry, if I'm being honest. Like, that's the fear
and that would make us look, how bad that would make us look, like if we pull the plug and we're just like, listen, we're going to sell Rice in January. Like, and Rice plays like 7-8 matches for us before he gets sold. That would just look so bad.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like, I feel like the team just look relaxed. They look calm. It'll be interesting when they've got the second game out in Australia, the one against Spurs, because obviously Spurs have had quite a few rumblings. They've got the Harry Kane saga, which could be affecting their dressing room.
I do want to see how Ange plays.
Yes,
I know nothing about him.
That's the thing. I'm intrigued to see what Ange does. Obviously, it's his home country as well. So I'm pretty sure some of the Perth supporters are going to be rooting for Spurs instead. Yep. So I think it'll be quite an interesting way to also see how some of our players manage that game as well, because obviously I think both teams will be trying out different styles, different players to be playing. I think it will be an interesting game. So
I just want to see the boys play. Just want to see him play. Like, I want to see everyone play. That's why I love preseason personally. Like, I want to see Freddie Potts. I want to see Divine Mubama. I want to see Kadoa. I want to see them all.
Thing is, I understand that. Don't get me wrong, but it would have been nice to have a player in there. That's the only thing I will say. Like, having a player come back for Dagenham and Redbridge isn't going to really cut it for me. He really isn't. Do you know what I mean?
But I look at the games after that, and I don't really care about Daggers, because I think that's where you do use the youngsters. For me, if we have to have made 2, maybe 3 solid signings prior to Rennes, if not,
the last 2 are important for me.
Yeah, Rennes are a decent team. Bayern Leverkusen are also a decent team, and they've now got Granit Xhaka. So
even though that goes against kind of what I said earlier, like, don't get me wrong, I want my players to get as many minutes in as they can, but also the quality is important as well. You can't diminish that. So, like, the Bayer Leverkusen game is exactly 7 days before our first Premier League fixture. Yeah. So that's why, in my eyes, that one's definitely important. You might as well nail that on as like a half a match, like a half a serious match.
Exactly that.
I agree. I agree on that. I want West Ham to be ready for the season, not scrambling about. Like I had a debate earlier on, yeah, and someone said to me, "Oh, why are you worrying for the transfer window don't shut till the 1st of September?" I don't give a fuck, mate. The season starts on August the 12th. Like,
Yeah.
I don't. The last thing we want to do is get players in towards the back end of the month. Then we've got to give them time to bed into the club, and then
Exactly.
like, do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? They need to be here now. I will say
Well,
that, but
exactly. And you're 3 games into the season before September begins. And
yeah,
September 1st, we've got our 4th game, which is against Luton.
yeah,
It'll be Luton's first home fixture in the Premier League because they've managed to get their first
Another season
original.
of that shit. We'll lose.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, it would have been their second home game, but obviously they've rearranged their first fixture to be the other way around due to the configurations of their stadium. But
Mm,
yeah, by the time the transfer window shuts, you're basically looking at 4 games
yeah.
dead and buried, and there's only 34 more games left in the Premier League.
Yeah.
I hear you, man. Get this comment here from Dean. Yeah, listen, it doesn't matter what colours you wear. Round of applause to Dele Alli coming out in that interview the way he did and his honesty too. Let's talk about that because that was quite an fucking emotional interview. I must admit, I watched that in Burnley in the morning and I had fucking tears in my eyes. Like, and I'm not even afraid to admit it. And he's never been my most sort of player that I've sort of rated. If I'm being honest, I thought he was all right at Spurs, but I thought he was massively overrated. Obviously, Spurs West Ham. Just give us your thoughts, gentlemen, on what he actually said.
I think it's quite a weird one, isn't it? Because with Dele Alli, everyone had the same interpretation of him as they did with, say, Lingard. They both piss
Yeah,
about. They're both TikTok stars. They're both just they do everything for the clout, social media, this, that, and the other. They were
yeah,
both interpreted very similar in that aspect. But obviously, I think everyone obviously knew that Dele Alli was adopted and he didn't have the best upbringing, but they didn't know all of the other psychological toil that he had had. Those things. Even if in his interview he says he feels better than he has for years, but all it would take is one little trigger and he could go
mm,
back in another downward spiral. I think it's definitely an eye opener. It's a brave thing for him to say. I think obviously it makes you question a few things. Like he had mentioned, like I know this isn't necessarily as big as the whole aspect of that interview, but they mention about the Amazon documentary, All or Nothing, and they talk about when Mourinho said that he needs to be better. He's lazy, this, that, and the other, but it didn't talk about like the apology or anything else other than that, and it obviously gave Ali a bad look as a player, which probably didn't help him psychologically, especially with everything else that went on. But all you can hope is that obviously it seems like Everton have given them everything that they can to sort of help him move forward with everything that's gone on. And yeah, I think everyone in a weird way would like to see him do well again, but whether he does well when it creates more turmoil for him mentally is another thing. I think it's a difficult situation, but
mm.
It would just be nice to see him sort of just happy back on the pitch and playing the old way. Whether he plays for England again is another story, but it'd be
I'm
a
going to
nice
ask
little
this.
comeback.
I'm going to ask this question, and there's two ways you can look at this question. Was it the right thing to come out so openly, knowing that now people have got ammunition against him if he's on the pitch in that
Not
No.
way?
really. No. I think there's always going to be a small amount of people that may say things. It's the same as how you've got people that may have or may make comments that they shouldn't, and things come out. But I think anyone that sort of makes those
Yeah, that says more
comments
about
that could happen, yeah,
it says more about the person saying the things to him. Because I mean, like, at
yeah.
the
I
end of the
mean, it's the
day,
same as people making racist comments. I guess is what I'm
yeah,
trying to get. Like, it will
Mm.
be the same level of you can't be saying that, and I think I think that if Everton are smart, what they'll do is they'll embed him in over time, and
Yeah,
by then the story will be not necessarily forgotten, but I think the fans will sort of, if anything, I would expect if he's named on a team sheet everyone's going to be probably clapping him. He's probably going to get the biggest cheers that he's ever had, especially from other teams.
Yeah. And as a famous person or a wise man once told me, the most dangerous man in the world is someone who has nothing to lose. And when I didn't watch the interview yet. I don't know if I'm going to, because personally, I really don't care for Dele Alli, but on a human level, man to man, like, it takes a lot to release all that information, get all that off your chest. And at the end of the day, any man that chooses to fight their demons rather than succumb to them, like, you get my respect 1,000% at the end of the day, because everyone's fighting their own battle. You can judge people all you want, but it doesn't make you look smart or wise or like whatever. It just makes you makes you look edgy, uneducated, like, because at the end of the day, you don't know what that person's going through. You don't know, like, how amplified their thought or situation or whatever is. So, like, at the end of the day, even though I don't care for him that much, I can respect him on a man-to-man level, that he's fighting his demons. And with the question that you asked, because he got all that off his chest, is that going to be ammunition? Of course it's going to be ammunition for people that want to be rude, disgusting, or whatever, but he has nothing to lose now. He's got it all off his chest, and the only way to move forward now is that he just embraces what has happened to him, what he's dealing with, and at the end of the day, he's the only one that can, like, get himself over the hump. And which, will he do that? I think he will. He does seem like a strong person, because, like I said, at the end of the day, if you can go on national television or whatever, YouTube, with Neville and release all that information, what you've gone through, you seem a strong enough person to me to get over the hump and get your life back on track, because he is a decent footballer. I don't know what his football career has in store after all this, but like Clive said,
he's training back with Everton, from my understanding.
But like Clive said, wherever he goes, I'm more than certain he will be clapped, because again, it's impressive, and it takes a lot of guts.
I'm going to say this: fair play to the kid, right? I will say that. When he was describing a few things, like with the alcohol and sort of growing up in a sort of a toxic environment, fair play to him that he's sort of come out the other side of it now, and and got through to basically seek help, right? Do you know what I mean? People struggle in times, and listen, especially men of like our generation right now are sort of killing themselves because they can't speak out about things. And someone used to say to me, it's best to talk to someone about your problems rather than someone carrying your coffin the following week. Do you know what I'm saying? And you've got to look at it like they're all human beings at the end of the day. And maybe us as fans have got to be a bit like, take a step back a bit.
Yeah, and some people find it hard to like me personally, once the match is over, once I have left the ground, those emotions that I've expressed, the amount of times I've yelled "see you next Tuesday" to whoever, that all leaves. That's like an on and off switch. Is that necessarily healthy? Probably not, but like I can grasp that, like, it's just football. That's part of football. And once I'm away from the football, I should be a rational, civilized human, be respectful to people, yada, yada, yada. So, like, some people don't know how to turn that off. And obviously, like, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube sometimes makes it a bit hard to shut that off. But at the end of the day, people just have to be decent. And some people find it harder than others to be a decent human.
Fucking they do, mate, indeed. Before we wrap this up, let's talk a bit of quick thoughts on transfers. Obviously, Sakaria looks like I don't know whether that's going to happen or not. Whether it's on or it's off, or he's injured or he's not injured or whatever. James Ward-Prowse for 25 million. Thoughts on that one?
25 million, I think that's decent.
Yeah,
I wouldn't hate that at all. I think he brings other characteristics. We need leadership in the team. Those that are leaders in the team, they're of a little bit of the older side. I'm looking at players like Cresswell, Ogbonna. I think in that aspect, there's not really many other leaders on the pitch. Maybe Souček. So then after that, you need someone like Ward-Prowse.
You need some leaders on the pitch that not can only lead, but they'll lead by example. And I think James Ward-Prowse would be a decent signing in terms of not only is he a quality player and he's a leader, but he'll be able to lead by example in certain facets. But for £25 million, to me, I think that's like I think that's an absolute bargain. I would, in terms of the market right now, and that he does play for a relegated club, the most I would go is 30. Even though I do think he's worth a bit more, but he's a relegated player at a relegated club, so 30 is the most I would go for him. But I still think I have to say this, and it's not me slating anyone's opinion, but I find it laughable that there's people in this fan base that that think Scott McTominay is a better player than James Ward-Prowse. I don't mind if you prefer having Scott McTominay in our team over James Ward-Prowse, but if you think Scott McTominay at £40 million or whatever is a better option or a better player than James Ward-Prowse, I cannot. I cannot disagree more. I
just find this a bit of a scattergun approach with James Ward-Prowse. I'm not on the James Ward-Prowse train. I really am not. I look at it like this: it's £25 million for a player. Fair enough. He's a decent player, right? Decent, good at free kicks, set pieces. I rate it. But as a midfielder and a midfielder on his own, take away the set pieces, he's bang average. He's bang average for me. And what's his position going to be? Is he going to take Souček's place? Is he going to be in a free midfield with Souček and another midfielder, and pushing maybe Paqueta further forward? I don't know. I really don't know. And I think
he'd be an 8 if I had to put my money on it. He'd be an 8, and hopefully he would replace Souček. But I mean, like you said, 25 mil. I don't think that's going to get it done, but say if it were to happen, I think that's an absolute bargain. Because while I don't disagree, with your opinion, but I do think James Ward-Prowse is. I mean, I do disagree with your opinion, but it's your opinion. I think he is a bit more than what you say. I do think he's a good passer of the ball, but anything else I wouldn't really argue with. Is he the greatest dribbler in the world? No. Does he advance the ball? Great. Dribbling wise, or carry the ball forward? Great. No. But I don't know. In my opinion, I think he would bring a good dynamic to the midfield.
And he does score goals. I know obviously some of them are from set pieces, some of them are from penalties and whatnot, but I mean, he's still scored more goals in the Premier League than all of our strikers did last season.
And the thing I always harp on about, he did play in a horrendous Southampton side. There's got to be a bit of leverage for him on that. Who he played with was a dog, and and logic would say if you put him around better players, I think his game would up.
Yeah, agreed.
That's just my opinion.
I think if you go to 25, that's the max you can go to. Anything higher than that, I just don't think it's worth it. I will say that. What about Alvarez? You're not a fan, Lucas, I know.
I do say that, but I don't want to. My comments did seem a bit cement and convincing that I don't think he's great, but I do want to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I want to watch him a bit more. Yeah. But from what I've seen. Again, I've said it a few times now, he was absolute dog against the United States when they played. He did have 2 good games after that, but he played Qatar and Malta or something. Or just 2 poor sides. But I've also seen on Twitter, there's a big Ajax account that always reposts goals scored around Europe, and he's an Ajax supporter, and he says Alvarez isn't good on the ball. He's really not that great. And another issue is that from what I've seen, I don't know what position he plays. He plays center half for Mexico.
Center defensive mid.
Center defensive mid, plays as an 8 at Ajax as well. So that's a bit of a spanner in the wrench, as you would say, or in the mix. But I don't know. I'm not totally convinced. I have to watch more on him, but I feel like I can always be convinced. I always can be. I just need to watch more of them. But to this day, I'd say no. For £40 million, no.
Yeah, that's the thing for me. Is it's the 40 mil for me. I don't think he's a 40 mil player at all. But I don't think he's as bad as everything suggests.
Is he what we need though, Clive? That's the real question. When you look at
depends what we're buying him for. Depends what we're buying him for. Because are we buying him for versatility? Because we can't seem to keep both of our centre backs.
Like,
or like is it for versatility? If so, then I get it. Would you rather buy him than buying another centre back? Probably, because neither of our centre backs can stay fully fit for a whole season.
Yeah, I know. Like, the thing is, when I look at him, like Alvarez, I think he's decent to a point. But yet again, he's another one. It's a lot of money for a player who hasn't really done a lot. Do you know what I'm saying?
I mean, look, I'd rather buy someone like Jonathan Tah, personally.
Yeah, I'd rather. I'm down that on that road with you on that. But people say about him being slow, but he's solid as a rock. Do you know what I mean?
I'd rather have Tyler Adams than Edison Alvarez, and that's not because Mexico's a rival and I absolutely despise them, but like, just think about it. For the money, they're similar in age. I mean, Alvarez is 24 going on 25. I think Tyler Adams is 25.
5, yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. For me, we've already talked about this before, and I see Razor's comment. Like, do I agree that James Ward-Prowse has zero sell-on value? I absolutely agree with that, but I just don't think.
I don't think he's got zero sell-on value.
I just think, and me and Clive haven't talked about this, but I'm interested to get his opinion. Like, I just don't think we're in that position to be like worrying about making money. I'd rather us sustain our European status personally. Like, if you want to buy players with high potential and possibly very good sell-on value, that's your opinion. I don't necessarily disagree, but I just don't think we're at that state yet.
Yeah, I think everyone wants us to just buy a replacement to Rice, but what we're not really thinking is Rice's position. Yeah, all right, okay, he's world class, but we're not going to replace him, and ultimately we have to accept that we're going to buy what would be considered average players in comparison to Rice.
Yeah.
Especially in that position, because what we want to do is fill up other positions where we need the improvements as well.
And it's hard. It's hard to get over the idea that we will never replace Rice. We're never going to. The only facet in which we can replace him is identifying someone with a similar profile. That's it.
That is the man. That is the man right there, Turan.
That is my dream. That's my dream.
If he comes to West Ham, then we are literally seriously cooking. All right, everyone sort of walked away from him. And one thing with West Ham, they do like to surprise us in the end. Let's be honest. But Paqueta wasn't going to come to West Ham, reported last year, and then next thing you know, he arrives. The problem I have is that I just don't like this sort of there's no plan here with West Ham, and that's the fear that I worry about. I look at Sakari, yeah. People saying about his injury records. Like, fuck me. They must have seen his injury record before they looked at the man. And now they're questioning it. Do you know what I'm saying? The James Ward-Prowse one, I think he's all right for 25. Is he a starter for West Ham? Well, he's going to have to be, isn't he? Right? But then whose position is he going to take? That's the question. Because he can't be Declan Rice's replacement. He just can't. So we've got a problem there.
Who are we going to get to replace Rice? This is what I mean. Like, ultimately, if we buy players everywhere around, the maximum we're going to spend for a defensive midfield position is about 25 to 35 mil.
See, I understand what Rob's saying there about paying an extra 5 or 10 million and trying going for Paulinho. Now, on that idea, if someone said to me, right, you've got a choice between James Ward-Prowse or Paulinho, you'd go for Paulinho because James Ward-Prowse is not a defensive midfielder.
I wouldn't. Because Paulinho, they're saying about 50 million. I don't think he's worth 50 mil at all.
But James Ward-Prowse is not a DM though, is he? Like,
I'd rather spend half the amount of money though.
Yeah, I know. That's true. But you know what I'm saying? But
you could teach him.
For me, Onana or like Tommy just brings out a brilliant Arabat would be ideal. He would be the man.
He doesn't want to go. We've tried.
Yeah. So I just think with transfers, like I've seen so many rumours over the last sort of 72 hours. It's like, and nothing seems concrete with West Ham.
That's why I need the bat signal from X. I need some news. I need some reliable news. Where are you? Where are you, X?
Well, yeah, he's in Australia with Dave, isn't he, having a good time? But you know what I mean, what we need is an iron signal going up and saying that we've got a player in. Before we go, lads, anything else you want to add, talk about, or discuss before we wrap up?
Can't think of anything.
I do want to say this. I do think there is a plan at West Ham I think there is a plan. Whether that be a great plan, who knows? Like, if I had to rate the plan right now, it's probably about a C plus or maybe a C, because I do think Moyes and Steiden, or however you pronounce his last name, I do think they have a plan, but I really do think this whole Rice thing is just derailing it, which, in my opinion, is a bit worrisome, because Clive would know, but like, if I was an owner, and this is me personally, I wouldn't spend money I don't have, or that I know I can't like successfully recoup. You know what I mean? So like, at the end of the day, we did spend that 180 odd million pound last season, whatever it was. But it's on the owners to successfully get that back.
But I don't think it's on this one. I don't think it's the owner's fault. They've done everything they can, haven't they? Like, and that's coming from me. Yeah, fucking hell. Right? They've got the highest bid possible. Yeah, they've got a lot of money for Declan Rice, and for me, they've done everything. They're just waiting on another club who's having second thoughts. I think Arsenal are having second thoughts myself. I really do. I think something Ibby said earlier sort of blocked in my brain, and for me, I just think they're having second thoughts about the deal altogether.
I think there is a plan. It's just not. It's not as. I don't think it's as good or as bad as what people think.
This is what I mean. I think the plan is based off of how much money we can actually spend, because I don't think last season's window as such is why we're not spending right now. I think last season's window is more, okay, we spent X amount of money, but the problem is if we were to spend something similar right now, FFP alarms are going to go off here, there, and everywhere, and we're fucked. And we're obviously going to be more likely to get shit than say Manchester City or Chelsea did. We're actually going to get it really shit.
We need the Saudi League to come in for Ben Johnson, Maxwell Cornet, Danny Ings, Mikel Antonio. That's about 130 odd million right there. We need it.
Take him. I've got to get to this comment from William, yeah? And we'll wrap this up. So before I go, if Arsenal don't sign Rice as promised, what do we do, gentlemen?
Laugh at them, and then go, we've got Rice for one more season, and just start singing the song for about 12 more months.
Hopefully push to a quarterfinal in Europa
I
League.
think it'd be one of the bestest flops transfers in the history of transfers. Like, that'd be like Peter Odewingie outside.
I'll tell you what, Karma has been trading pole position between West Ham and Arsenal Twitter. So
it's funny when it comes to Arsenal. When it comes to Arsenal, they love London club drama, don't they? Because Sol Campbell from Spurs, then they had the reverse happen with Ashley Cole. He left them for Chelsea, and now we're in a situation where Rice could be going Arsenal, but it could go absolutely Pete Tong between now and the next few days, for all we know. But I think
what would be great for the world is that we just pull out, we sell to City for about 10 million less. City go on to win it. Arsenal don't finish top four. Karma rears its ugly head. We laugh.
No, so before the season, what was it? During the when we was in Prague, I said to you, Rice isn't going this summer. I still think that's the case. I still stand by it.
Die on the hill, Clive. I respect it.
Yeah, Clive's died on the hill, mate.
Look, Alfie said to me this deal would have been done by July 1st, and here we are, July 14th. It still ain't done.
Right. Basically, final question then from me is, how long do you give it, day-wise? Because now they are running out of time for me.
We've got Dagenham and Redbridge on the 22nd, so I think we get back to England on the 18th, 19th, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's the Wednesday we get back, or
So it's been 10 days now. I say you give them 2 weeks. That takes you to the 18th of July. In my eyes, is you've had 2 weeks. We're pulling out. We've given you more than enough time. Yes, so 4 days. 4 days. We've already given them the trigger as of day 8. We gave them the trigger saying we're getting frustrated. I think by Monday you go, we're now 24, 48 hours away from pulling the plug, as a media warning. Like, you tell the media the exact same as what you did the other day, going, we're getting frustrated. But now you go, we're willing to pull the plug. And then come day 14, day 15 maximum, you go, we've pulled the plug.
Yeah. What about you, Lucas? You in the same camp?
if this doesn't get sealed and dealed by
Monday for me. I'm going to say Monday. Because I'm not
I'll
being
mean the
funny,
middle.
but
I was going to say Friday, but if this is not wrapped up by Wednesday.
I don't think Monday's realistic because obviously on the weekend they're not going to sign the contract.
They're flying out. They're flying out this weekend to the US.
No, but all they need is it to sign the contract. But
the lawyers won't work on the weekend. So
well, fucking give them
true.
overtime.
They're weekend consultants. Remember that. They're weekend consultants. But for me, if this is not, I was going to say Friday, but I'll mean the middle. If this is not done by Wednesday, it not only is it a joke, but I really do think we should consider, like, I don't know. This is one of the most unique situations I've seen. It really is. The deal's been done for 10 days now. And again, we talked about it earlier, but like in my opinion, I feel like it's a bit too late to pull out, but I'm not opposed to like not thinking that way. It's tricky. It really is.
I think it's win-win for us, if I'm being honest. I think if he goes, fair enough, he goes. But if he stays and the plug gets pulled, not only have we got Declan Rice for another year, or as good as for another year, but we can just give it to Arsenal fans.
Will says this, that I will hold this as like kind of a grudge piece as well in term of like an agreement. They did promise us today, and if we use that excuse to pull out of the deal, I'm all for it. I think that'd be great. I'm all for it.
That is the same.
You promised me.
Yeah, you told us Friday, and now it's like the following Tuesday or something.
We should just hold them. We should just hold them to ransom and go for every day this goes on, like every day longer.
Charge them interest.
It's 5 million. Yeah, 5 million more per day.
Oh yeah.
Next thing you know, we're getting 200 million.
That is the shithouse like attitude that we like to hear on E20's own TV. Right, I'm going to wrap it up there, gentlemen. Please do smash a like on the video before you go, people, in the chat. It goes a long way, really helps us out. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell and all that. First off, I'm going to say a few things before I go. Shout out to Tom and all the boys. We have been working on the logo for the last sort of week, and we got it done the other day. And I'll tell you what, I'm absolutely over the moon with it. Do you know what I mean? I think the logos look absolutely mint. I'm coming in strong this year, right? One thing I'm going to say is that I'm putting everything into this year with all the lads, and we're gonna motor big time. The subscribers are going up in the way I want them to go. The boys are back. Clive's back. We're all on board, and we're gonna roll this out this year big time. Yeah, that's the first thing I'll say. That. Shout out to Tom also for the thumbnail tonight. Absolutely brilliant. We had a good laugh in the WhatsApp group before we went live. So shout out to Tom also. So yeah, I'll be back Sunday night at some point. Hopefully we get some more news, but if we don't, we'll be back. We'll probably do like an after-hour show or something on Sunday night and see what the hell was going on. Get everyone on board on Sunday night. So yeah, and the top lad Charlie, go and subscribe to his channel and all. A top lad's channel. He's got a channel, Wrestling One. Go and subscribe to it. Great show, all. Like and subscribe, everyone, for fuck's sake. Nice one. Right, Lucas, wrap this up for me, man.
Yeah, we're gonna end out. We're gonna surf away on this vibey intro and outro. And until next time, stay safe.